Do you feel frustrated trying to grow your franchise? Are you having trouble balancing your consumer and franchise development marketing? Do you wish there was an easier way? Imagine if you had a proven roadmap to take your franchise's marketing from costing you to making you money. That's why we've created the Franchise Growth Blueprint. We walk you through the exact same process that we use to run franchise marketing campaigns for our clients at scale that has resulted in triple-digit growth. This blueprint isn't for anyone. It's not for people just starting a franchise. It's not for franchises without long-term goals. This is for franchises that want to scale up their marketing in a predictable and profitable way using a proven roadmap. If you want to sell more franchises, keep your current franchisees happy, and learn from people who have already done it, go to franchisegrowthblueprint.com and sign up today. That's franchisegrowthblueprint.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Franchise Marketing Podcast. Today, I'm super excited. I have another fellow Canadian on the show. Her name is Jennifer Brannon. She is a franchise growth specialist at Angela Coté Inc. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
No problem. It's great to have you on. So for our listeners who have not heard about you, who are you? What do you do? You are steeped in franchise industry experience. So I'd love to hear that.
For sure. I have been in the franchising world for, don't want to age myself, but well over 25 years-ish. Mostly I was with supplemental education, so spent time in Sylvan Learning Center. And then most recently, I was a franchisee with Tutor Doctor. I did really well with Tutor Doctor, loved every minute of it, was a top performer, and just had a great time as a franchisee. And I sold my business in the fall of 2019. I always said somebody was on my shoulder whispering in my ear that it was time to sell. And, with COVID and so on, the timing couldn't have been better. But part of what I did when I was with Tutor Doctor is I had an amazing team that took care of my operations, which allowed me to be something that I'm very passionate about, which was mentoring and coaching new franchisees into the Tutor Doctor system, as well as people who just weren't performing at the level they thought they could, and really help coach them through that to make some changes within their own businesses to help them reach their own goals. And I just loved that. So when I sold my franchise, I thought, well, the obvious next step for me, because once you sell a business, quite often it's like, what the heck am I going to do next? And I put some feelers out. I was connected through a mutual acquaintance that I work with at Tutor Doctor, with Angela Coté, who's quite well known in the franchising world. And I always say it was love at first sight. Angela and I met just via Zoom. To be honest, we've not even met in person yet, because she's in Vancouver or in Victoria and I'm in Toronto. But we instantly connected because we share so many core values, and our mission of really just helping people, and specifically franchise systems and franchisees, be successful. And so I joined her team, and I have loved it. I have some amazing clients that I currently work with, and I really appreciate the difference that we're bringing to the franchise world, and being with an organization that really cares about the people. That's what makes us different, is we care about the people. It's not just, oh, you want a franchise, let us help you do that, give us a big paycheck and away you go. We're all about helping people be successful and making a difference for them. So there you go.
I love it. I love it. So tell me about what has been like working with, new franchisees. What are some of the stumbling blocks that you are seeing that's quite common?
Well, if we talk about new franchisees, because I also work with new franchisors, so I do both. realms. So I don't actually, to be honest, these days, I'm not necessarily doing a lot with new franchisees. It's more established franchisees that are struggling. And usually with them, I find it's inefficient systems, is that they're really just not monitoring their KPIs, their key performance metrics. They're not planning out their marketing. They don't have the right person in the right seat, meaning, their employees maybe are not doing what is right for them. Therefore, they're doing a job that they're not really fulfilled at, or is not the best fit for them. And really, people tend to, I find, when they're stagnant like that, is that they're not getting out in the community and building their business like maybe they did at the beginning, because they're so motivated and engaged. It's very easy to get a little stagnant, and really just trying to light a fire under someone is and motivate them again and re-engage them can make all the difference. So those are kind of some of the common things that I see with franchisees that I work with.
Awesome. Very cool. So we know franchisees typically have these problems. What can franchisors do to help support and tackle these problems?
Well, I think that a good solid franchisor system has a very robust support program, but also active coaching program. And I think this is a mistake that a lot of, especially new franchisors, make, in that they don't understand the difference between those two. Support really being making sure that your franchisees have everything that they need to be successful. And that's the easy thing to do, because it's whatever the brand needs, making sure that they have the product they need, or they have the tools and things like that. But also support being putting out fires, and getting them the help they need, and so on. But the thing that people miss a lot, franchisors miss, is that active coaching is really not just thinking, okay, no news is good news. Oh, we haven't heard from this franchisee for a while and their numbers are okay. I guess they're okay. We'll leave them alone. If you want your system to grow and you want your franchisees to grow and be profitable, because let's face it, that's one of the number one points that is important for a franchisee, is you got to get in there. You got to really be familiar with their financials, and help coach them through how to be more profitable. And then also show them the steps of what they need to do to get to that next level to grow. Don't just leave them to figure it out themselves, and having a good solid plan of what each step would be. So let's just say your franchisee is at 250 in revenue, but the next goal would be, let's say, to get to 500,000 in revenue. Well, what's going to get them there? Map out that path and that plan, and then coach them on that, so that you've got those key goals, but then you've got the action steps that the franchisee needs to do within whatever your timeline is, in order to chip away, in order to position them, in order to reach those goals. So I think that's a really big one, is having a very solid, active coaching program that is going to help your Z's be more profitable and reach their own goals.
I love it. So what is the first step a franchisor should take when coming up with a coaching program?
Making sure that you have a good franchise business coach. So somebody in place that is going to be your person, who's going to be out there in the community, in the network with the franchisees, that is going to be, I always call them, their person, so that when a franchisee has a need, they have a go-to person that is going to be there to help them. And if that franchise business coach can't help them, they're going to figure out who can, or maybe behind the scenes, they're going to get the tools or the resources or whatever it is, the best practices, whatever it needs that their franchisee is asking for, and then present it to them. So I really think having a dedicated franchise business coach should typically be one of the first hires that when a system is getting, 10 units or above, they really should be starting to think about developing that program and a particular person that's going to be in that role.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, it sounds very resource intensive to have a coach, face to face almost every day. So, how have you found scaling this out across a larger network?
We talk to a lot of different brands, and there is certainly a difference between how many franchisees one business coach can handle, and it's usually depending on the brand and how intense that brand is, and how much support and coaching the franchisees are gonna need. So we find that it's one business coach to anywhere from 25 all the way up to potentially 50, which is really, really, really high. Maybe more like 40 franchisees. So the as far as scaling, if you get to around 10, bring on the franchise business coach. They're going to take some time that they're going to need to ramp up, and they're going to need to really learn the brand. So use them in that time, in that learning period. Maybe they could take on special projects within the brand, or they can help out in the different areas, just adding some support, some manpower to different areas while they're learning about the concept and about the brand and the expectations and the benchmarks and all of that kind of stuff. So that would probably be, if you were starting out, if you get to 10, 15, you really need to be thinking about that person and bring them in to do a combo of things until they start to max out on the number of franchisees they can do, as well as whatever their other home office responsibilities are.
It sounds like it's such a no-brainer that it's such a like a win-win investment into your system, into your franchisees, helping build that culture. Wow, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's important. It's an important piece that is missed a lot. And I will tell you, being a former franchisee and being surrounded by franchise systems and franchisees, if you don't have a good, solid support and coaching program, you're gonna eventually have unhappy franchisees, because they're not going to feel that they are supported in that growth that they want. So it is a vital component that you need to really be planning out.
Very interesting. So, how is this different from franchisee to franchisee mentoring or coaching? I'd love to hear a bit about that.
That is much less structured. I didn't When I was mentoring, I didn't spend a lot of time really looking at financials or their KPIs and strategically planning. Mentoring is a lot of sharing of experience and best practices. I probably every other sentence was, well, if I were you, here's what I would do, just from my own experience. But it definitely has a place. I'm working with the system right now that I'm trying to build that in to some mentorship. And it doesn't have to be a one-on-one situation either. You can do, especially now, due to COVID, we've got a lot of roundtables, Zoom roundtables. We're all just coming together and we're maybe brainstorming different topics. Like lead generation is huge for most brands, right? I want to learn from my colleagues. What are they doing that's working for them that maybe then I can be doing as well? So there's things that you can do that actually won't cost a lot of money, that's going to bring your community together so that they can learn from one another. Or you might have a more senior franchisee, maybe a top performer like I was, that wanted something more. And for a long time I volunteered to do this kind of thing before they created a formal mentoring program that I actually got paid for by the franchisee that I was mentoring. But there's lots of things that you can do if you are creative to really put these together to learn from one another.
Very cool. Very cool stuff. So, Jennifer, you mentioned, bring someone in. at around 10 units and having them scale up to 25, maximum 50. So this coach that you bring in for the very first time, they're going to be critical in shaping that program. So what things should a franchisor be looking for, whether it's qualities, whether it's experience and background when bringing on that first coach?
We'll get right back to the show, but do you feel frustrated trying to grow your franchise? Are you having trouble balancing your consumer and franchise development marketing? Do you wish there was an easier way? Imagine if you had a roadmap to take your franchise's marketing from costing you to making you money. That's why we've created the Franchise Growth Blueprint. To find out more, visit franchisegrowthblueprint.com. That's franchisegrowthblueprint.com. Now back to today's episode.
One of the things that we've learned, and actually it's funny you mentioned this because we're just in the process of putting together a franchise business coach program, training program, that we're hoping that we can, roll out eventually, that systems can take advantage of. But we, just from our experience and learning, have learned that really the soft skills are way more important than the experience and the knowledge. A lot of that stuff you can teach. Probably most of that knowledge and real skill, when it comes to the hard skills, you can teach someone, and you can put them, shadowing somebody else for a month or a few weeks or whatever to learn that. But it's really much more difficult to teach someone soft skills, right? How to have empathy with someone, how to motivate and how to engage others, how to be personable, how to connect on a person to person level, how to be flexible. There's so many things in that way, how to think outside the box, how to, be understanding, but yet still keep people on task and accountable. That's a big one. The ability to keep someone else accountable without also becoming, like a hard ass that's going to be, nobody wants dad watching over us and telling us all the things we're doing wrong with our businesses. That's not what a franchise business coach's job is. And neither is it. And this is a mistake I see with new franchisors. They kind of tend to, or some, I shouldn't say they, I've seen it where it's like, well, these franchisees have to do what I say, right? They're following our system, almost like a boss employee situation. And that's the farthest thing of what a successful franchise system should be looking at their franchisees like. These people are your partners. They've got brand standards and compliance, and all of that is important, but you can motivate someone to keep to brand standards and compliant while still treating them with respect and like a partner, like they should. And that's key with a franchise business coach, is making sure that when you're training them, that they understand that they're not going in like a boss saying, why didn't you do this? You should be doing that. No, that's going to fail miserably. Really, you want someone that can connect with your franchisees, that they can believe in. So credibility is important. And credibility doesn't always necessarily have to come from experience, there's some differences of opinion, because sometimes people will think, well, if I'm going to have someone in this role, they have to have been a former franchisee, or they have to have had experience with it. That's not necessarily the case. It's the person they are, and do they command respect and credibility because of the respect they give back, and the understanding, and they can talk the talk, and they can think outside the box, and they can give great suggestions. And part of coaching is not necessarily always to teach. And this is something I'm working on, because I love to talk, and I do a lot of talking at people because I just want to tell them so much. I know so much. I want you to hear everything I have to say, because I want you to go off and learn from it and be successful. But part of being a good business coach is actually taking a step back and helping them do the talking to come to their own conclusions, and talk through an issue, talk through a problem, and find their way through it, just by asking the right questions and letting them talk, and maybe steering it here, there, and everywhere, to make sure that they're figuring out a pathway through whatever their issue is, or wherever they want to be, that's going to work for them. So.
Yeah, I love that you touched on, the soft skills versus the hard and technical. So, during this vetting process, are you asking specific questions? Are you giving them certain tests or projects to kind of like filter out, the cream of the crop?
That's always a great suggestion. That's exactly what we're working on right now. I love a good homework assignment for a candidate who's looking for a role. And there's lots of different options that you can do. I love when I'm interviewing someone for this role, giving little scenarios, because giving those scenarios can get you to what their mindset is. So you'll be able to weed out really quickly if they have a certain perception of what this role is. Like maybe it's like, big brother or dad kind of, or boss mentality or not. And also their own flexibility in being able to adapt to whatever, the franchisee kind of says. And you think you're going this direction, all of a sudden you got to go over here, and how well you adapt to that. So I love a good scenario or a few scenarios. I ask a lot of things like, okay, did this ever happen to you in your past positions? If so, how did you deal with it? Walk me through the steps, walk me through the conclusion, what ended up happening. Just again, so you can see how they handle things. It doesn't mean that they have to get it exactly right. That's not necessarily what I'm looking for, but I'm looking for those qualities to peak themselves out. And I want to make sure some that they're coachable as well, because then I can coach them to how I want them to coach our franchisees. Yeah.
I love it. Love the assignments. So, Jennifer, one question I always like to ask is, what advice would you give someone just starting out as a franchisor?
Oh, as a franchisor,
Mhm.
one I would absolutely, and this is going to sound like a shameless plug, but it's really not meant to be. I really believe in getting help, whoever that's going to be, but make sure you get personal help from people who've been there, done that, um, in that to because what's important is to build a solid foundation of your franchise system right from the beginning. It's way harder when you've got 20 or 25 franchisees to realize your gaps in your system, and then to go back and to fix those gaps. It can be done. Of course, we have franchise systems that come to us all the time, and that's what we do. But if you start off and covering off all of the steps, you're going to be well ahead of the game. The biggest piece that we find that new franchisors don't do is properly vet their franchisee candidates, and really make sure that they know their franchise system's core values, what's important to them, and what they're looking for in people that are going to come as their franchise partners, that they must share those core values, and really do your due diligence to make sure that those people are the right fit, because it'll cost you time and a lot of money and a lot of headache down the road when you get those franchisees that are not the right fit, should never have been part of your system in the first place. And if you had have set yourself up for success right at the beginning by having the different processes in place, that's probably the biggest one, because it's so harder to go back and fix that issue. So those are kind of my top couple.
I love it. And I'm glad you brought up, that culture, that fit, because, it's so darn difficult, saying no to a check that's just being waved in your face.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. I also on the side, I have a few side gigs. I do franchise development for my old brand Tutor Doctor as well. And I find that it's easier for me to be able to say no to people, because I've lived and breathed the brand, and I love the brand so much, and I'm so protective of the brand, that to me, the check is that's just a bonus I get for doing the job. I just love the job itself. But there's a lot of a lot out there, and I understand it. You're so desperate to get your franchise system off the ground that you're, who wants a franchise? I'll give you a franchise, as long as you've got the money, let's go. And that is something that will bite in the butt every time for sure.
So here's a question for you on that topic. How are you finding balancing, staying true to Tutor Doctor's culture versus, hitting those sales benchmarks that you've been assigned?
Well, the good thing is, and this is what every franchise system should really adopt, is the franchisor is very clear of, we want only the right candidates. So my job is not to convince people at all. My job is to inform them of what Tutor Doctor is all about. I always say to people, I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, all businesses have the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's not all sunshine and roses, right? Like, there's tough times. There's things that I didn't like as a franchisee that, I jumped on the train and worked to fix. And luckily my franchise system was very open to doing that. But I want to tell people, here's what it is. Here are our core values. Are you a good fit? You think you're a good fit for us. I think you're a good fit for us. And here's what it's all about. And if we're all aligned, then we'll move forward. And so, yes, I am very lucky in that that's the only people that the franchisor wants, are people that fall into that. So I don't feel pressure. I know, I'm sure they do. They've got their goals and so on, but they're not, their goals are not more important than us making sure that we have the right franchisees.
I love it. All right, Jennifer, I could genuinely chat with you all day, but I want to be respectful of your time, and we are coming up to the end. So I like to end all episodes with something that I call the lightning round. It's a few fast-paced questions coming at you. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm not good under quick. I'll do my best though. I'll do my best. Okay.
I have complete confidence in you.
Okay. All right.
First question. What is your favorite tool or app that you cannot live without?
Asana.
Great choice.
Okay.
What is your favorite book?
The Outsiders. S.E. Hinton.
Awesome.
Yeah, just from childhood, I read it back front to back. I think I counted like 42 times as a kid. Wow. I just kept reading it. I don't know why. I was a little bit of a weirdo maybe, but I just, from my childhood, I love that book.
Cool. All right. Who is a franchise leader that you look up to?
I'm going to say two. I'm going to say absolutely Dan Monahan and Frank Milner, Tutor Doctor, and then Angela Coté in the franchise advising space that we're in, because she's amazing and awesome.
Totally. All right, Jennifer, I promise it's an easy one. Don't worry.
Okay.
Where can people find out more about you and your company?
AngelaCoté.com. That's
awesome.
it. We're all there. Everything that we do, all of the services, advising. We have free roundtables for franchisors and franchisees that they can join and just get some collaborative opportunity to talk to their peers.
Awesome. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I know our listeners are going to as well. So yeah, thanks for dropping a ton of knowledge.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Franchise Marketing Podcast. If you found this episode useful, share it with a friend and subscribe now so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And until then, happy marketing.